Hi everyone, welcome back to Much Ado About History, and today we are going to start a little mini project that's going to combine history, geography with also data. And what we're going to do is we're going to take part in this project called Making a Capital Decision. What we are going to try to do is to pick what would be the best location for a U.S. national capital city. We're doing this in the past, however. We're not doing it for the 21st century. We are going to imagine that we are making this decision in the year 1790. And so we don't have 50 states at the time. We have the 13 original states, and obviously we're just limited to the eastern part of the country. But we're going to use a series of maps in our book that I'm going to walk you through to help us to reach that decision. So let's get started. Making a capital decision. And what we're going to try to do is choose a national capital for the United States. But there's a couple things that we have to keep in mind, of course. And that is when we're doing this, we are acting as if the year is 1790. So we're going to be making decisions based on that fact, not that it's, present day, modern times. And you have to keep in mind that in 1790, we just had the 13 original states. So we're kind of limited to that particular part of North America because they weren't deciding this when we had 50 states or 48 states. So it's certainly going to be in the eastern part of the country. And here you've got this long list of possible sites for the national capital. Some of them are cities you've probably heard of, right? We've got Boston right there, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Baltimore, Maryland. Maybe you've heard of Charleston, South Carolina, or Richmond, Virginia. Those seem like possibilities. Some of the smaller ones, I don't know if these are all serious contenders, right? I'm not sure if Portsmouth, New Hampshire, is that really a serious contender to be the capital, or Carlisle, Pennsylvania, or Newcastle, Delaware. Some of them seem maybe a little bit too small or a little bit too far away. There is one that I want us to be aware of, and it has to do with names. So you'll see that there's one on here called Alexandria. And on the different pages in the activity, sometimes it's referred to as Alexandria, and sometimes it is referred to as Washington, right? Like the city of Washington. So just keep that in mind. If you see Alexandria, it means Washington, or if it says Washington, it means Alexandria. It's the same thing. It's that location right there. Okay, this we should have done together. I thought it was important before we started to actually label the 13 states along with all of the territories that were not yet states. So territories owned by the U.S. that hadn't been made states yet, you had Maine up here at the top, which was actually at the time part of Massachusetts. You had Vermont. Vermont is going to be the 14th state. It's not the 14th state till 1791, so it's not one of the original 13. This NWT right here, Northwest Territory, Ohio, Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, that we had gotten from winning the Revolution. And then you've got Kentucky and Tennessee. And those will be states in a few years, but they're not yet states. And then you've got the original 13, which we all have labeled New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, D for Delaware, that M is Maryland, V for Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. So our capital is going to be somewhere in those original 13 states. We're going to look at this climate map here. All right, and a climate map is going to tell us what's the average long-term temperatures of these places. What we really want is someplace that's balanced, someplace that's temperate, that's mild, not too many hot months, not too many cold months, because travel was very difficult back then. There's no air conditioning, so you don't want it to be too hot in your city for many, many months. Or if it's, icy and snowy, it's hard to travel and get around. So we want something that's kind of in the mid-range. So here we got these, each graph, each dot represents a month. And each line, the bottom line represents an average temperature of 32 degrees for a month. The middle line is 50. The top line is 68. What we really don't want is we don't want too many months that are above the top line and too many that are below the bottom line, either extremely hot or extremely cold months. Okay, so if you look here at the bottom, for example, Savannah is already done for us. Savannah has 6 very hot months and not really any cold months. So that's a really, really hot place to hold the capital. Portland, Maine, way up here at the top, 4 really icy months and no real warm months. Boston is a little bit better. It's only got 1 really, really cold month. Okay, and let's kind of fill in the others here. So Philadelphia, we got New York, we got Boston. Okay, so New York. New York, it looks like we've got 3 that are kind of just above the top line. So we're going to have 3 hot months in New York, but not really like really, really icy, horribly cold months in New York. So we'll put 0 for that. Next is Philadelphia. Philadelphia, again, not really any that are too cold. Maybe 1 that's just kind of right on the borderline. So maybe we'll put 1 icy month for Philadelphia. And then again, 3 where it's going to be really, really hot. Washington, which we also refer to as Alexandria. Looks like we've got 4 really hot months and none that are below the bottom line. Norfolk, Virginia, right here on the coast. Looks like maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'd say, hot months. And not anywhere close to the bottom line. So it's pretty warm in Norfolk. And then Charleston, South Carolina, none really even close to that bottom line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 really warm months. So remember, what we're looking for is balance, where it's not too hot, not too cold. That's a place you're going to want to put your national capital. So the next map we're going to look at is about the U.S. population at the time. Where were people living? Each dot represents 20,000 people in the late 1700s. And remember, this is 1790. So you kind of see that a lot of the population seems to be pretty close to the coastline, the Atlantic coast. And it looks like the majority of it is kind of between like southern Virginia to the northern part of Massachusetts. That's where a lot of the population tends to be. Once you get above Massachusetts, it gets kind of really, a little bit more spotty. And once you get into the Carolinas and Georgia, you see a lot fewer dots. And then once you get west of this line, once you get west of the Appalachian Mountains, the dots are pretty infrequent. So you want it to kind of be, relatively easy for people to get to, where they don't have to travel too far, certainly not too far away from the center of the population. So down here at the bottom, this is just a real quick graph that we're going to fill in. So what's the population of each state or territory at the time? And you see that some of them are already filled in. And I'm just going to use just like a little blue crayon, okay? Or you can use anything like that. We're just going to fill in the remaining parts of the graph. So here you see Massachusetts had 379,000 people at the time, so filled to about there. Rhode Island, 69,000 people. Connecticut, 238. So I'm going to estimate that that's probably somewhere around, maybe somewhere around there. That's the population of Connecticut. New York, 340,000. So a little less than even Massachusetts, but there's New York. New Jersey, so 184,000, a little less than 200,000. That'll be right about there. Pennsylvania, 434,000 people, so there's our 400 number. So a little bit above there, there's the population of Pennsylvania at the time. Delaware, 59,000, so just really kind of small. Maybe just take a little spot right there. Maryland, 320,000, so there'd be maybe somewhere around right there. Right, a little bit more. There we go. Virginia, the biggest state at the time, 748,000 people. So almost to the end of this graph, Virginia was the most populous state at the time. And then Kentucky Territory, not yet a state, less than 100,000, 74,000. So that'll tell you where the population was living at the time. And obviously we're not going to put the capital in a territory. We're going to put it in a state, and we want it to be somewhere close to the center of the population. The next map in the set that we're going to analyze, it says large cities and their influence, and you've got, again, most of the cities, possibly all the cities, and it's got their population size in thousands here at the bottom, and they're represented by different size squares. The bigger the square, like just the larger the city. So you get some large size cities, some medium sized ones, and some smaller cities. people worried that if you put the capital in a really, really big city, especially one with a lot of business interests or banks or financial institutions, it would be easy for those businesses or the rich or the wealthy to kind of influence government and, purchase government or, kind of corrupt it. So people were afraid of putting it in too large of a city, but of course you don't want to put it really nowhere either. You don't want to put it in a little tiny small town or somewhere far away from the population center. So we're just going to kind of look at how big are these cities at the time, how many people in the thousands, and maybe what we want to do is try to put the capital in a medium-sized city rather than a really, really large one, or certainly one that's too small. Okay, so the two biggest dots here you see, this is New York and Philadelphia, by far the two biggest cities at the time. Okay, so these would be in both the L category, New York, Philadelphia. Then you get to Boston. Boston's got about 18,000 people. So we're going to give that an M. That's a medium-sized city. So is Charleston. So is Baltimore, Maryland. Okay, so we got some medium-sized cities. Newport, Rhode Island, I'd say that's a little bit of a smaller one. So 7,000 people. So really all the rest of these, at the time, these are pretty small cities. 5, 6, 7,000, 4,000. Like today wouldn't even really consider those cities, they're so small. But at the time, most cities in general were smaller. So maybe we want to shoot for something that's more in like this medium size range here. Not something that's too small and not something that's too big where it might get, government might get overrun by business and the wealthy and banks and things like that. The next map in the set that we're going to use to make our decision, it says enslaved people as a percentage of population in 1790. So nowadays, of course, by our standards, no one in their right mind would ever advocate slavery or stand up in defense of slavery. But we do have to keep in mind that we are talking about 1790 when slavery was a reality in America, and we have to deal with that. Again, what we're probably going to look for back in 1790 is you're going to want a balance. Somewhere that maybe is a place that has some slavery but is not completely dominated by a slave economy. And maybe it's not a good idea to have it in a place with no slaves because the slave states won't feel represented. I'm going to suggest that you grab a couple of colors. I'm just going to use some crayons to do this just so we kind of visualize where the slave population was in 1790. And so you might need a yellow, an orange, a red, or a purple crayon. So I've got some of those. At any time you need to pause this video and go ahead and get some supplies or something, you can go ahead or you can watch it again. So what I'm going to do is we're going to color the states in based on these numbers here at the bottom. What was their percentage of people held in slavery at the time? So I'm going to pause the video real quick and I'm going to fill this in and show it to you to show it to what you would look like, and then I'm going to want you to finish it on your own. All right, so here's my completed map. So anything that's this yellow color has anywhere from 0% population of slaves to 11%. Orange would be 12 to 22%. Red color is 23% to 33%. And then purple is really anything 33% or above of the people living in that state are held in slavery. And so to figure out what color we're going to make the states, we're going to use this chart here at the bottom to help us out. So you can see that a lot of the northern ones all have 0. Maine territory, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts 0, or like Rhode Island 1%, Connecticut 1. So a lot of those are very small, and those are all going to appear as yellow on the map. So a very small percentage of people held in slavery, really from about Pennsylvania and New Jersey northward. Then we get to some of the, we only have really 2 orange colored, that 12 to 22%, and that would be Delaware. Delaware has 15% of its population held in slavery, and Kentucky Territory right here had 17%. Okay. Then we have a couple red states, and the red states would be Maryland, which has 32% of its population held in slavery, and also North Carolina, which has 25%. So here's Maryland, here's North Carolina, and then the purple states, anything 33% or above, 33 to 44%. And those would be, according to this, Georgia, South Carolina, and also Virginia with 39%. And so here you can see in 1790, these are the states that had the largest percentage of people living in slavery. So to be fair to people in 1790, again, not certainly advocating slavery, but if you're trying to find a balance between the slave states and the free states, you probably don't want to put it too far into this yellow section, and you probably don't want to put it really in maybe some of the ones with the purple states. You want to try to maybe find a city that has a balance between no slavery and too much slavery. Our last map in the packet has to do with Revolutionary War debt. Debt was something that all the states had to deal with because they had borrowed money during the Revolution, and some states had a bigger problem with debt than others. And so you've got some data here at the bottom. Here are the 13 states. This was how many millions of dollars they had in debt in 1790. You know, here's their population. And then a fair share. So like based on their population, how much should they be, you know, paying to the central government in taxes? What should their share of the debt be? So what we're really looking for, again, is a balance. So if we see anything like one of these big plus signs, that means their debt is way, way more than their fair share. So they are in a lot of debt trouble. So anywhere that you see, like here, Massachusetts has this plus sign. Massachusetts has $11.5 million in debt when its fair share is only $8 million. So it has a much more debt than it should. A state like New Hampshire has $2.7 million in debt, but based on their population size, they should really have about $3.0 million in debt. So they're slightly under. That's why they have this small little minus sign. So New Hampshire's debt problem is much, much better than Massachusetts' debt problem. So again, I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to fill this in for you, and then we'll look at which states are in the best and worst positions when it comes to debt. Let me show you how I use this chart for the debt, and then I'll show you what the map looks like. So the national debt at the time was $80 million that you see down here at the bottom. And then, of course, the states were different sizes. So if you divide that $80 million based on all the states' population size, what should their fair share be? And that's this column here, fair share. Here's their actual debt. So if your debt is more than your fair share, that's a problem. And the more that you're in debt, the bigger the plus sign you're going to see on the map. If your debt is actually below your fair share, that means that that state's economy is in very good shape and very strong, and they're not going to have a lot of debt issues. So for example, you see here Delaware is looking pretty good. They had a $1.2 million debt. Their fair share was $1.2 million, and that came out to a 0. If this column is the bigger number, what you just do is you find the difference between this number, like 3.0, and this number, 2.7. If the number in the fair share column is bigger, it's a minus. So New Hampshire's was minus 0.03. If the number in the debt column is bigger, then you put a plus. So here for Massachusetts, $11.5 million of debt when their fair share was only $8.0 million, a plus 3.5, which is a real negative. So if you put that in line with the map, so the bigger the plus sign that you see, that's a state that's got a lot of debt problem. And people were worried that if the capital is in a state with a lot of debt, that state government could collapse. There could be another Shays Rebellion. That state economy might be weak, and it might threaten the safety of the national capital. So you really don't want to put it in a place that's got a big, big plus sign. A smaller plus sign, maybe like Maryland or New Jersey, that might not be too bad. The ones with the minus signs, they're in a really good debt position. So like Georgia and South Carolina, their debt was mostly paid off. The best states were North Carolina and Virginia because their debt was much, much smaller than even their fair share. So this helps us determine where to put the capital. We want to try to avoid these big plus signs. That state has too much debt and might be not a great choice to put the capital. Okay, so now we've got our packet complete. We've got our maps filled in. We've got the data that we need to try to help us make the best decision we can for for where to put a national capital. So bring this to class next time and we'll be ready to discuss, and I'm going to ask you what your choice is, and you can use data to defend your decision. So until next time, thank you very much. Thanks for joining me on Much Ado About History. Have a great day. Bye-bye.